Get started. So I want to welcome everyone. My name is Laura Kestner-Ricketts, and I'm the Executive Director of Career and Professional Development at Augustana College. And I am so pleased and proud to be hosting our first of several Career Development Presents panels. This is our first one where we've been able to bring back nine alumni of Augustana College, and our focus today is on those students, alumni who consider themselves of the Black African American background heritage. And so, Dr. Wooten, would you like to start, please?
I'm a class of 1989 from Augustana. I was a business major. I went to work for Alcoa, Women Company of America. I don't know if you all know, but there's a major plant right across the river, that's like a mile long. Went to work for them as a sales rep trainee, did that there for about a year, came to Chicago afterwards in the sales office. Then I went to Frito-Lay about 7 years later. Then I had an epiphany and kind of God spoke to me and said I needed to be in education. So I got in education, did a little bit of consulting, and stayed in education for 22 years. Left education somewhere along the line. I also got my MBA from Northwestern, and like I said, worked for 22 years in higher education. Got started in a doctoral program at the University of Illinois in 2001, and just finished it this past May. So that's why I'm sort of wearing my doctorate on my sleeve. I am still happy to be Dr. Bradley T. Wooten after 19 years. If nothing else, I have persevered. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. As of last January, I have left higher education as a dean, where I've had multiple dean positions, started my own company in consulting, specifically in personal development and organizational development. And currently, I just got picked up on a contract to work with the Department of Labor doing consulting and coaching and mentoring of employees. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm sure we'll get into more later on.
The next person I have on here is Chandler Collins. Are you on here?
I am, and okay, thank you for having me. I'll start by saying that I did not imagine that after only 11 years away from Augie that I'd be the third person called and the second person to speak and going in this order. So that's fun, but it's okay. Thank you for having me. A little bit. That and my wife and I are expecting our first in about a month. So those two together gets us to that, but that's okay. But no, thank you guys for having me. Thank you all that have chosen to attend. Much like Dr. Wooten, I'm a proud Augie graduate, even though I have another school I attended. I'm proud to be an Augie grad and to share it. I live in Des Moines right now. I'm from just south of Chicago. If you're familiar, it's Dalton is where I grew up before going to Thornridge and ultimately coming to Augie. Since leaving Augie in 2009, I went to Drake Law School, graduated in 2012, and then lived in Omaha for about 3 years while I was a federal probation officer. Left there and became kind of a lobbyist type role in 2017 for the Department of Public Safety before ultimately getting to where I am now as an attorney for the Iowa Attorney General's office. In this role, I work with the Department of Human Services, kind of doing some employment litigation work for them, as well as just whatever else random they kind of come across. It's been a unique journey, and I'm happy to answer questions about that. But yeah, it's so far, I guess, a little bit quicker than Dr. Wooten's, but I got, I guess, 20 more years to make up that time. So that's all I have for now.
Laura, thank you for having me and for inviting my peers. The class of 2014 is well represented today, and that's pretty awesome. I am Cameron Numa. I live in Los Angeles, and I work at Amazon, where I lead government affairs, public policy is what we call it, and external affairs for all of Southern California. So that's LA County, all the way down to San Diego. It's a big job for a massive company, and primarily I work with governments on any regulatory challenges that the company faces, as well as I do my best to make sure that Amazon's a good neighbor. So we have a pretty robust community engagement and strategic philanthropy budget that we use to reinforce our policy initiatives. So looking forward to chatting more about that over the course of this conversation, but thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking time to be here. I appreciate it. Okay, Kara Smith, also from a sunny place, hopefully.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me as well. Again, another class of 2014. I was an Augustana accounting and political science major. I also ran track and field at Augie while I was there and part of the Delta Chi Theta sorority. From university, I worked at Deloitte in Chicago and was there for about 6.5 years. And during that time, did a transition from Chicago to Deloitte's Bermuda office, where I currently live. So I've been in Bermuda for the past 3.5 years almost. And just about 6 months ago, I made a career transition and left Deloitte, which is a large global public accounting firm, and joined a startup company here on the island. So I was their second full-time employee. So going from a large organization with a lot of these, diversity and inclusion kind of structural frameworks to now a startup where I can kind of mold the culture how I want it to be over the next few years as we grow. So really interesting, very exciting stuff. And I do work in the reinsurance industry, which is basically insurance of insurance, but that's very boring, so I won't go into that too much. So.
Thanks, Laura. Sorry for my tardiness. I was coming from another meeting, but Anthony Holman, what up, Brad? Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Class of 95. So I was a political science and economics major at Augustana. I also played basketball and was a PUBA. I currently work at the NCAA. I'm the managing director of our championships and alliances department, where I oversee about 22 of our national championships and our playing rules and officiating department, as well as lead our strategic alliances department, which is managing most of our relationships with our broadcast partners and corporate partners. How I got here, just dumb luck, really. I was fortunate to get an internship while I was at Augie through the Career Center with at that time, the Quad Cities Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they were looking to start a sports commission. So they needed an intern to do some grunt work. So I did a bunch of feasibility studies for them, some facility assessments, and provided some data and information to all of the respective city governments and state officials about the need for sports tourism as an economic driver. From that internship, there was a group of investors that I presented to that was a part of that group, and they owned and operated several professional baseball, hockey, arena football teams, and I got an opportunity to start working for them and worked for that group for about 7 or 8 years, and then worked at the Illinois High School Association for 9 years, and then went to the NBA for a few years, Major League Baseball, and then here at the NCAA, where I've been for just over 11 years now. So,
wow.
Yep.
Clay, class of 14 as well, CEO and founder of 38th Street Studios and our new tech company called Track It Media. Kind of like everybody else said, kind of got here with dumb luck. I went into sports management at first, had an internship up in Minneapolis, lived there for 2 years, thought I wanted to be a sports agent. Then quickly realized that I didn't want to go back to grad school, and you needed to do that to kind of make real money in that business. But I learned that I loved entrepreneurship, so I was able to learn and craft my skills underneath what I now consider my mentor, Blake Barrett's, from his sports agency. And when I told him what I wanted to do and how I could help with a tech and marketing firm, he was very fortunate enough to give me my first clients and kind of my start and open up his network. And so I've been able to grow my business there. That was 5 years ago. And about 3 years ago, we started Track It Media. It was a digital display and software company for events and hospitality space. So think kiosks, think digital displays, in order to drive engagement at events, at sporting arenas. PGA is a client, NBA is a client of ours. And then obviously fast forward today with COVID, no events. So business kind of slowed down. We had to reinvent ourselves. So we actually started manufacturing our own kiosk out of Boston. to equip them with thermal cameras and stations like that. So kind of, if we ever want to talk more about that, we can talk about how we had to kind of pivot to really save our business this year.
Hey, my name is Krishawn Orange, class of 2019. Right now, I'm located in Crystal Lake, working for Express Employment Professionals as a skilled trades professional recruiter. Right now, at Augustana, I played basketball there, and probably most of all of my great memories probably came from there. Chandler knows a lot about that as well. But one of probably my favorites going to the Final Four, just being around those guys, and it was just an amazing experience, to say the least. Also, I was a double major in business marketing management and communications. And then after Augustana, I went to play professional basketball in Tbilisi, Georgia. So I came back in March due to COVID and everything like that, but wanted to really jumpstart my career and, get in the field. So Express gave me an opportunity and been working here for a couple months now.
But yeah, so my name is Stacy Gill, graduated from Augustana in 2018. While completing my studies at Augustana, I was a psychology and sociology double major. And about 2 months after graduating from Augustana, I was able to actually stay at Augustana and work in the career development office with Laura and Lisa, but also in the Office of Residential Life. So from about my sophomore year at Augustana, I knew that I loved community development, but also youth programming equally so. And so one of the projects that I took on was really just interacting with a lot of professionals at Augustana, interviewing them, and just seeing how their career path went along, just what degrees they decided to follow in terms of graduate school or graduate doctorate degree, things like that. And from that gained a lot of insight, of course, networking and connections that way too, but gained a lot of insight into what I was interested in and not when it comes to youth programming, community development, and higher education. And so after that, I knew that I always wanted to do a service year program. So I said, why not do it now? So after a year of working at Augustana, I decided to be a member of the Mercy Works program, and that's located in Chicago, Illinois. But as we all know, COVID stopped and put a lot of things on halt. So I was enjoying my program so much, was located as a match coordinator for Friends First, which is a mentor, one of the biggest mentoring programs located in Chicago, and was able to sort of build my own mentoring program from the ground up. And so that was a really cool experience, but that was put to a halt. Program was discontinued altogether. And so that definitely took me for a loop in terms of like, oh no, I was not expecting this at all. But I quickly said, well, you know what, I know what I'm interested in. I know the things that I like to do. And eventually graduate school is in my sight somewhere down the line. But for now, I want to continue to do the work that I love. And so in August of this year, 2020, I was granted the opportunity to become a special programs coordinator at Legal Prep Charter Academy, and that's located in West Garfield Park in Chicago, Illinois, where I was born and raised in Chicago, South Side, Auburn Gresham, whoop, whoop, shout out. And so now I am doing that work as a special programs coordinator. And I think one of the last questions was like favorite memories. I honestly have so many memories at Augustana. I can be very transparent in saying that I may have been like overly involved in so many things at Augustana. But I really just, I do miss being a program coordinator though, in the Office of Student Inclusion and Diversity. It was just a chance to connect with so many students and sort of built a culture around just like what it means to uplift other students, but also be a support system. So definitely just missed that experience.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Dario Sherrard, also graduated in the year 2019, graduated with triple major in public health, sociology, and communication studies. Originally went to Augustana to pursue a biology degree. I wanted to be a physician. I really like helping people, giving back. Chemistry made me cry, so I immediately had to change. Took a lot of classes, a lot of exploration, really enjoyed public health through a lot of internships and conferencing and networking, which led me to want to pursue my master's. I'm currently now at DePaul in my second year, getting my master's in public health. I'm focusing in community health research. And I'm also a research coordinator at the University of Chicago. I started off as an AmeriCorps member, just finished up my service and transitioned into a full-time role there. I'm also a research graduate assistant at DePaul as well. So yeah, that's me. I'm busy.
So to answer Laura's questions in terms of would I be willing to be a mentor, definitely. In any aspect, if there is an opportunity for us to throw our, like personal information out there, I'll be more than willing to share. But understanding that with mentoring, it's meant to be sort of this challenge in terms of like they're meant to another space or spaces that you never thought that you were able to go to. And make you think about things that you may have also never thought about it before. But it's also meant to be a safe space in terms of asking questions, but willing to be transparent about where you are and what you don't know. So I think I can say that definitely about being some of my mentors, just having those moments of transparency where I've been like, you know what, this is definitely not what I was expecting, and what am I supposed to do? And so knowing you're meant to have those moments, especially as it relates to your career, but even in personal life, having mentors in that aspect. So definitely can speak to the positivity that comes from that.
Thank you, Stacy.
And to piggyback off of that, I would say definitely utilize CORE. A couple of my mentors I actually found through CORE who are alumni. One of them, for one, is Dr. Emily Landon. A lot of you may know of her. She's been the face with the COVID. She's the head epidemiologist at University of Chicago. And I have several mentors in different arenas. So definitely, don't just have one, never keep one egg in your basket. Always branch out and have many mentors. So definitely utilize CORE, because I definitely utilize CORE. So yeah.
I'll go next because I'll say I was sort of late to the game in terms of understanding mentoring and the importance of mentoring. I like to tell folks I'm a recovering lone wolf, or a lone ranger, so to speak, and didn't really understand the importance of mentoring until later in life. And I went to school back between 85 and 89, and there weren't many, I didn't understand mentoring, and there weren't that many mentoring individuals on campus. And I didn't totally understand what the value of mentoring was until later in life. And that's when I really started to see things take off in my life as I got that guidance. But just the culture that I grew up with at home, and sometimes a trap I think that African American men especially fall into is you're looked upon as being weak if you have to rely on someone else, or if you want to ask questions, or if you need to ask for help, which is a very flawed way of looking at things. But back then, that's kind of how I was. But mentoring is extremely, extremely important. I probably would not have finished I know for a fact, I would not have finished my doctorate degree if I had not understood better what mentoring was and had some folks step forward and actually mentor me through the process. And as I look back on my life, there were mentors here and there who mentored me, and I didn't understand as a mentee what that meant. And I also have begun to mentor a number of folks, and I'm very open to mentoring as well, just to help folks guide folks through whatever they're going through. And right now, even my company that I've started just very recently is involved in mentoring, and some of the work that I'm doing right now is mentoring as I sort of understand the finer points of it. Before I end, one thing I didn't include in my introduction was my favorite memories at Augustana. Probably some of you heard that way back in the dark ages, Augustana was actually pretty good at football. I was a part of the championship run. So the last two championships I was a part of. Those were some of my favorite memories of being at Augustana, being on the championship football team. So,
I would just quickly add that from my standpoint, I live in a world that's very external. My every job I've ever had, I work in politics. I'm essentially a lobbyist. It's personality, it's relationships, it's building relationships. And so in my experience, mentorship is essential to your success, and investing in people. I always tell folks, I was a mediocre student. I'm not particularly athletic, but I'm a hell of a talker. And that has been my skill set in life, and it's done okay for me. And so I think that, and those of you who are afraid to truly invest in people, whether it be your classmates, whether it be your teachers, whether it be your coworkers, I highly encourage you to do it, because in my experience, it pays dividends. And I'll tell you one thing about mentorship that's interesting. I agree with what a lot of my peers have said about having a variety of mentors from different backgrounds, but sometimes the student becomes the teacher. And very quickly, I'll share with you, I worked for Senator Dianne Feinstein, and my boss, when I was working for Dianne Feinstein, is now the senior advisor to the mayor of Los Angeles. This man is 50 years old. He oversees a staff of 800 people. He is one of the most influential political players in Los Angeles. When George Floyd was murdered, there were 2 weeks of nonstop demonstrations and protests in Los Angeles. And the LAPD was handling that in a way that wasn't very good. And I had all of my friends who worked in the mayor's office who were texting me complaints. I think I want to quit. I don't think I want to work here anymore. I don't like the way we're handling this. I'm having a hard time being a part of it. And one of my friends said to me, Cameron, you may not realize this, you're on the outside, but you are the only person that looks like you, the only Black person that can check the chief of staff to the mayor, because he's my mentor. We have a personal relationship outside of work. And I called him and we had a very frank, blunt conversation. I don't know that that made a difference. He would say it did. I'd say I don't really know. But I think when you look at who's the best in the craft that you want to be in, you ought to reach out to them. You ought to build a relationship with them. And not only are you looking for something from them, but unbeknownst to them, they may be getting something from you.
I'll add something really quick, and it definitely agree with what everybody has said thus far. But I'll also add this, is that, at least from my perspective and my experiences in the startup world and starting, a tech company and things of that nature, many times you go out trying to search for mentorship without a purpose. Right, you need to still have a purpose and looking for mentors, so you can make sure that you maximize the opportunity. Right, many people are very friendly. Many people want to help you out, especially help young people out. Right, but if you don't look to truly seize something out of the relationship, right, then it will be for naught. Right, and you still have to remember that you have to put in the work and actually seize the opportunity. Right, and take the advice and act on it. Right, the mentor is not going to lead you. They'll lead you to the water. Right, they can't tell you how to drink it. Right, type of deal. So you still have to do that. So really make sure that it doesn't become a distraction, right? Trying to spread out too far and actually focus in on what you're looking for out of the relationship. So I'll just add that to it.
What's a challenge that you faced in your journey so far that you've learned something from that you think might be helpful for students to hear about?
I'll jump in on that one, I guess. Kind of in the vein of what Cameron mentioned, but also, like you said, the last 6 months or so. I think for me that the last 6 months, especially where I was feeling already, and then kind of May, obviously late May, just in the country in Iowa, it was the impetus for my career change. From a career that had me at one point, like I said, I was working as a federal law enforcement officer, and then I had transitioned to a more lobbyist role, but working for public safety. And I had to look internally and say, I can't do this. To the point of Cameron's point, where I felt that I was able to talk to people who could make decisions within the government, within the state police, to be frank, for Iowa, and it was falling on deaf ears. So I guess the guidance that I took from that was, no matter what you think you want to do career-wise, you have to be true to yourself. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to be able to look at yourself and know that, hey, yeah, we're all working for money. We're all working for acclaim. We're all working for whatever motivates you, you're working for, but you can't get there if you're not going to be happy. And that's where I found myself late May throughout June, was just struggling to be happy with the job that I thought I was going to love and make a career. After I was a probation officer for 6 years, and I liked it, was ready for a change, and thought, okay, I'm going to be in politics. This is how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to do this for 3, 4, 5, 6 years and make a jump. And a year and a half in, I can't do this. And here's why. And ultimately, it led me to get away from that part of a legal journey into this part of a legal journey. And it's still early, but I can, because I followed what I would say is my heart, I feel much more confident and just happier in following that. And it took an external force that it shouldn't have to get me there. But, ultimately it led to a positive outcome thus far.
Yeah, I can speak on it a little bit. Being early in my career and graduating last May, but well in May 2019. But a challenge I faced was coming back into the United States because I was overseas like during the whole COVID outbreak and everything like that. So it was very interesting like to see how other countries were handling and how the United States was handling it, which was really kind of funny to me. But when I came back, I didn't know like what was going to happen. I didn't know if the country was going to open back up. I wasn't sure if like basketball would continue and everything like that. So I had my challenge was to really figure out what I wanted to do, and I think that's a big challenge because I know going to Augustana I should have figured that out kind of while I was there, but I would say the sluggish side of figuring that out. So when I got out, I knew I wanted to be in business, possibly sales or something like that, but it really didn't pan out that way because I followed my heart and wanted to play professional basketball. But when I got back, that was probably the biggest challenge was to just figure out what I wanted to do. And a book I read, it was called While Your 20 Somethings Matter the Most. And I advise, anyone, I recommend that book to anyone if they're looking for a good read. And it was just a book to say, just do something, don't sit around. So if it's an internship you want to go after, if it's a job opportunity, I would say anything like that, really just follow what you want to do. And, to attest kind of what Chandler was saying too about, following what he wanted to do and make sure it was something good, not just, something he looks back on and, be upset about that he was still in that position. So that was my probably biggest challenge so far, just to figure out what I wanted to do. And Express has given me a great opportunity to really flourish in my role of communicating with others and then employing people into jobs as well, which is really fun.
Thanks for sharing that. I think a lot of our students think that they are supposed to have it all figured out and that everybody else has it all figured out. And we know that that's not the case. And you go in and out of knowing what's going on and that that's totally okay, and, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. So thank you for sharing that. Others, challenges.
Yep, I'll jump in on that because I was going to say I'm 6.5 years post-grad and still feel like I'm just figuring it out as I go along. So don't feel like you need to have it all figured out. But with that said, it does help to kind of have a goal in mind. And that goal can be, should be flexible so that you can adapt to changes in the environment and what you're facing, like we saw this year. And I think a challenge that I've had is that I went into accounting because it's very has a lot of job security. I'm a very risk averse person. And so I think some of the challenges I faced in my career is taking those risks and stepping outside of my comfort zone. And so far, every time that I've done that, it's paid massive dividends for me. So when I decided 3.5 years ago that I wanted to move to Bermuda without ever having been here before, and then that just kind of escalated my career while I was at Deloitte. And then when I decided to leave Deloitte and join a startup company earlier this year, and then COVID hit. So that was also the planner in me, the person that likes to have, see what's going on and know what's going on. That really, I really struggled with that going into kind of a period of uncertainty, but so far so good. And I think what I would say is to have a plan and know it's easy to feel like you're kind of off track or not where you're supposed to be if you don't know where you're going. But with that said, be agile and responsive to things as they come and don't be afraid to take risks. I find that's where you have the most growth and most learning.
And also I would just like to emphasize that life is not a linear path. So a lot of us may have, envisioned we'll be here, but may have ended up somewhere else. And another thing that I highly recommend is just manifesting things over your life, claiming it. If you want something, say that you want it and you'll get it. And, when people try to discourage you, don't let that deter you. Stay determined, stay focused. I personally have had a lot of people discourage me and say, oh, you shouldn't go get your master's, your BA will be suffice. And, and that's okay, thank you. But I've manifested and said, this is what I wanted. This is what I deserve. And I went after it and now I'm doing it. So definitely manifest over your life and just remember that life is not linear. and it's okay to not know, but it's very good to have goals and just, you know, a focus of where you hope to be.
And I definitely agree. I was going to end on a note of just saying, talking about challenges, one thing that I've definitely learned in this past year with things, of course, like being someone who is a planner and having my plan sort of literally just like on a piece of paper ripped up and said, no, that's what you thought. And so being put in that position, one thing that I've definitely started to assess is also just multiple aspects of my life that's not just also direct to, you know, like what I envision career-wise, but also thinking about other aspects in terms of like your social circle and thinking about your networking circle and things like that, and understanding that it very much is possible for you to have multiple strengths and how to use that in whatever space that you enter into. And with that being said, just thinking about, you know, if you have multiple things that you're interested in doing and things like that, to never feel that it's not possible to grow in multiple areas at once. And so I think a lot of time that is something that a lot of people also get put in a position where they say, you know, like, oh, it's more realistic to do this, but I'm not sure if I can do that because that'll take, you know, way more time, or that'll take, you know, I don't think that I necessarily have the strength to do that, but also to know if there's something that you're interested in, to take the time to take those elements and to learn, if that's, you know, reading and making time for those things that you know that you're interested in, because I think that sometimes things are sort of this one track of, you know, like this is what I need to focus on in this moment. And of course, be focused, be diligent, and have a plan. But knowing that if something continues to tell you like, oh my gosh, I'm realizing that I'm really interested in art, but I'm also interested in, you know, like doing this career path, to know that it's very possible to grow in both of those things. And yeah. And I definitely, as Dario speaks, also to like, you know, speaking over things that you want. And one thing that I definitely speak over is like multiple streams of income, and knowing that there is multiple things that I'm good at, and wanting to capitalize and, you know, do, you know, youth and program development just as much as I want to do social justice initiatives. So just also knowing that it's okay to have that mindset.
Thank you, Stacey.
I'm glad that Stacey brought up strengths, actually, because that'd be one thing that I think like I didn't really focus on as a student, and I think students should, is knowing what your strengths are. And I think we heard from Cameron in the beginning, like he knows what his strength is, and that's it works for him, and that's how he's able to get where he is today. And so I think, yeah, not getting so focused on like, you know, what other people are doing and what's gotten them there, because you're a different person and everyone's unique. So yeah, like really honing in on what is your strength, and it's not just what you're good at, but it's what energizes you. So what like keeps you going, because you could be really good at something, but like it drains you, and so you're not going to actually thrive in that type of like a role that just does that. So find out what energizes you, what gets you excited for the day, and find a way to make that your career.
I just have to say that I'm so impressed and proud right now of being an Augie alum, as I listen to the wisdom of all of the alum, and I know it's also being imparted in the students as well. To get back to your question, though, as to what I've learned over the past 6 months, I'm going to say it's more like 9 months since I left my position in higher education as of January. I've grown my faith. I've grown my mental aptitude. I've been able to look outside of the blinders that have been put on me on life in general. And the advice that I would give to students is to be very open to life, period, and set goals. It's so incredibly important to set goals that grow you, something that scares you but also excites you at this exact same time. That's the kind of goal that you want, one that you don't know how to get to even, because you'll be amazed at how, and the word manifest with you, that's one of my favorite words these days, you'll be amazed at the resources that manifest themselves to get you to the goals that you want. And listening to other folks or comparing yourself to other folks doesn't do any good. It's one of the worst things you can do. Your path is your path. And when you strengthen yourself, you strengthen your spirit, and when you strengthen your spirit and you really start to connect and understand life better, and I'm saying this over years because I've learned some things the hard way, you'd be amazed at how things fall into place, how you end up where you're supposed to be as long as you're truly following your spirit and really determine what your purpose is and get a vision for who you want to be. And as someone else also said, life is not linear, but always be a learner of life. You may end up in places where you don't think you should be, but there's a lesson in you being in that place that you can carry forward either for yourself or for someone else. And that's what life is about. It's about serving other people, period. So all the things that you go through, good and bad, are a lesson. And the past 6 months even are a lesson. I've been, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, to be able to compare, well, my reference point has been the Rodney King issue that happened back in the early 90s to what's going on now. But again, I'm so impressed with the younger generation that's coming along saying that enough is enough. We're going to make a change. And I'm sort of encouraging and also riding that wave as I enjoy watching just the younger folks do things and me fit in where I can to encourage and to support. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that for now. But I'm so impressed by just all of you here and all of the young folks who decided to join this call. You're going to get a lot of wisdom from this panel, mainly my colleagues on the panel here. And I'm just loving every minute of it.
That's great.
I would say my success is honestly just making it where I am today. Graduating, being able to be a part of a lot of conferences and just experiences that I've had, and just also just thriving and trying to survive 2020, I think is a huge success within itself. So yeah, definitely.
Stacy.
Okay, I was like dissecting stuff. I was trying to write notes real quick. In terms of advice, I will definitely say, as someone has already said, be open to new opportunities, new experiences, and given the things that are going on in this time, but just in life in general, to never forget the power of your voice. And I'll say that no matter what career path you're in, no matter what your current environment situation is, to never forget the power of your voice, but never feel that you don't have a voice. And so I know a lot of times that's something from my own personal experiences, understanding how to navigate different spaces, but also how to articulate what like I want to say, but also to be done, and to not feel, don't wait for others to take action, knowing that you can take action in any moment, in any situation. And so you have just as much power to do things and to make a change as anyone else. And I would say to never give up, of course, is, that's a word of advice that we've all heard before, but definitely speaks true that there will be hard times. There will be days where you definitely feel like I'm not sure if I can do this, but knowing that it's all in the power, of course, of your words and your mindset. If you say that you can, if you say you can't, those are both right. And so understanding that you can do whatever you set your mind to, but also know that there's always people there to support you, even in moments where you feel like it's not so. Just continue to connect yourself to people who will continue to pour positivity into your life, and definitely sit back and watch your world change.
My success, I would say, so far is graduating. I was one of the first of my family to graduate, to go to a four-year college and graduate all the way through. So that was probably one of the biggest things just for me. And then to give just a little advice, I said earlier, be open to new opportunities, but also don't set any limits to yourself. I've traveled the country and I'm only 23 years old, which is like, I love just saying that. And, I love traveling all in all together. So really don't set any, limits to yourself. Enjoy and find love and, whatever you'll do. And you'll be good from there.
My advice would be to network. So really invest in those relationships. And when you're doing that, I know networking can sound like a really, daunting task of making awkward conversation, but really when I say that, I mean just connecting with people genuinely, because people can kind of see right through when it's ingenuine and you're being false. So it's really important to be confident in yourself and bring your best self to your interactions with other people. So networking and leveraging those relationships I think has been the what's led me to one of my greatest successes, which is this new role that I'm currently in. So I got that role because I connected with someone on a personal level at an event, and they were recruiting for this job, and like said, hey, I think you'd be great for it. The job wanted someone who had Ivy League experience, 15 years of experience. So I went into it thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to get this, so let me just go for practice. And again, I just connected with the person that was doing the hiring, and they had hired 50 people before me and turned them away. So and selected me. So I think just being able to connect with people, networking, and just letting your true self shine through in those interactions as well.
Thank you. Cameron.
I agree with everything that's been said so far, but in terms of advice, I'll let you in on a little secret. Assuming that our audience, Laura, today is primarily Black students, which is that you are the most sought after young professionals in the country. Corporate America, nonprofits, tech, you are an asset, and authentically being you is an asset. I mean, I work at the largest company in the world, depending on any given day. And I can tell you right now that we being authentically African-American and being bringing those life experiences to the table, it makes sense. I work, one of the businesses that I support at Amazon is Amazon Studios, the entertainment side. The #1 consumers of content are people of color between the ages of 15 and 35. It makes good business sense to have all of us at the table. It makes good business sense for us to say whether or not a script is authentic. It makes good business sense for us to say whether or not that director has the correct view to tell the story. And that's the case in all different fields, whether it be finance, whether it be business, whether it be clergy, whether it be academia. You are an asset. So first of all, with that comes responsibility. Conduct yourself as knowing that you are an asset and that you have a bar that has been set for those who came before you, and you must beat that bar. But in addition to that, know that you're an asset. Shop yourself around. You have something to bring to the table. You are of value. And I think if you just change your mindset and you walk into that room and say, excuse my language, but bro, I'm the shit. I just think if you tell yourself that before you walk into a room, it's gonna change your life, in my experience. So I just want you all to understand that. I don't know if there's enough people at Augustana who can tell you that you are valuable.
I'll start by saying, Cameron, whenever you want, if you want to record that, I would love to hear it before I go into court. That'd be great. But my advice is gonna be very similar, and that's maybe purposeful. I'll say Cameron stole my idea, but the reality is you belong. That's my advice. I think it's easy being Black to get in rooms, to get in areas, to get in fields, and hope to see and pray to see, to walk in that for me courtroom, to walk in that building, that conference, and hope that you have somebody you can connect with across the table. And when you don't see them, when you say something and people give you maybe a look because they don't necessarily know or understand why you said it that way, or why you got your second haircut this month, or some of the bigger little things, know that regardless, you're there because you belong. You're at Augie because you belong, and when you leave Augie and you embark upon the next step of your career, no matter what it is, when you get there, there's the saying of the imposter syndrome, and I know I have it. I think a lot of us have it, where you get somewhere and you find yourself feeling like, man, they're gonna find me out one day. They're gonna realize that I shouldn't be here. I think when you're Black, you have the feeling that they're gonna think that if I make this mistake or I don't catch this error, that I must be an affirmative action hire, or I must be somebody that doesn't belong. But the reality is you do. You're there, you belong. And the advice I just would have is just as you continue to go, keep that mindset and know that your success is all ahead of you because you do belong to be there.
Wow, I would have to go after Chandler and Cameron. So that is unfair, but I'll try here. Two things. The first, I'm going to share because I think Brad inspired me. I'll share with you a little bit about a failure to then lead. When I got to Augustana, first of all, I didn't want to go to Augie. I was the shit. I should have been playing Division I basketball somewhere. So, I ended up at Augie. I didn't want to be at Augie. So my first semester was like that because I didn't think I wanted to be there. And what happened? I flunked a class. I was only taking 3 classes. I flunked the class. What's that mean? I'm ineligible. So now I'm embarrassed. I don't even want to, I shouldn't even be here. And now I can't even play. But you know what happened? The best thing that happened to me was people didn't give up on me. My coaches didn't give up on me. The classes, my teachers, everybody, they supported me. And so from the lowest depths that I ever felt as a young 18-year-old person, I got humbled, which I needed, but then I got supported. So to me, I'm with Krishan, the best success I've ever had may not have been that, but every success I've had from then was built from that. So I was proud to graduate, but every success I've had since then has been built on that. So the advice I'd give to you all is that, and I'm old school, not as old as Brad, but I'm old school. You guys belong, and Chandler's saying that. Boy, I wish I had that confidence at your age. There's something I turned it up. This is what's on my wall in my office, on my phone. In my mind, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And that's my mantra. Like Cameron's like, oh, you belong. And I feel you, but man, you better have a plan. And I tell my son this, everything's a baseball analogy. He's a good baseball player. I said, don't swing at every pitch. What that means is you've got to approach it with a plan for what pitch is best for you. Somebody may come to you with an opportunity. I'm going to pay you X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but is that a good fit for me? Because that won't bring you success. So that's my advice. Don't swing at every pitch. Have a plan.
But to try to stay within the 1 minute time frame, I'll share what only I think I can share. And that is my biggest success has been just the balance that I've had, or that I've at times struggled to maintain throughout life. And this will also sort of dovetail into my advice. Life is about balance. Sometimes you'll be out of balance, but know or get a feel for what your balance is in life. A family. I've had 2, I'm actually, and I don't know if I should say this, especially with Anthony on the line, I actually have 3 grandchildren. So yes, I'm too young for that, but my wife started early. At any rate, but life is about balance. Life is about discovery. Live it fully. If you have any, I would only parrot everything that everyone else here has said already in terms of have a goal and work towards it, have a plan, but be flexible with that plan, because the best laid plans of mice and men are, or no, better saying, I think man said I have a plan and God laughed, and that happens all the time, quite frankly. Be flexible with it, but still know what that goal is, and enjoy life. Don't take yourself too seriously. That's one thing I used to do. Yes, I suffered from the imposter syndrome for a good part of my career. And I want to say it was taking a toll on my health until I had an epiphany and I started to understand that, yes, I belong here. I have a voice. You're hearing this early on, that you have a voice, you're valued, you bring much to the table. Make sure you know that when you walk in the room. You belong. You belong any and everywhere the soles of your feet tread upon. So just remember that.
Cannot thank you enough for this fantastic panel. I learned so much. I am so happy and proud that you all took time out of your day to share with us. So thank you.